Hey guys, tapping my maple trees today. It's a little earlier in the year than I typically would tap, but it's been unusually warm this year, so I'm going to go ahead and get on that before the trees start to bud. But I want to give you guys a quick how-to because this is a cheap, simple hobby to get into with the kids, grandkids. It's a good time, and the syrup is so much better than what you can get at the store. And if you buy the real maple syrup at the stores, it's just stupid expensive. So I'm going to show you guys how to do this really quick. It's super simple. I have a few products that I purchased really cheap. I will provide some links to those. You can get this tubing. It's a 5/16 tubing that you can buy in a roll of a few different sizes of your selection. And then you also will need these tips. They're a 5/16 insert into the tree for your drill bits, and they have a barb that goes into the hose. You can also purchase Y connectors if you want to do multiple taps per tree. This does not harm the tree as long as you know a small amount about it. You don't want to tap a tree that's way too small. You don't want to put too many taps on a tree. If you get a tree that's about as big around as a 5-gallon bucket, you could probably put one tap on that per year and be safe. You just want to select a different spot, make sure it heals well. But that being said, you will need a drill and a 5/16 drill bit. When you drill this into the tree, you don't want to go too far. 1.5 inches is plenty. And what you want to do is, there's a technique. You want to have a sharp drill bit because the tree fibers are a bunch of little straws, and if you go in there with a dull drill bit, you're going to cut them, but you're also going to collapse them. So you want a good sharp bit, and you want to drill slightly upwards at an angle. That way, when you get the freezing and thawing temperatures where that sap's running to the roots in the freezing and going to the limbs in the thawing, you'll capture it in that hole that you've drilled, and it's going to trickle down into your nipple that you put into the hole that you drill, and through the hose and into your bucket. So I'm going to scoot you guys a little closer so you can see this. The tree behind me is not actually a hard maple, it's a silver maple. You can tap a variety of maple trees. It works fine. The yield on a hard maple is about 40-to-1. You boil down 40 gallons, get 1 gallon of finished product. On the silver maple, it might be a little bit more, but it works for me. And on this tree from previous years, I know about where to drill it, where my good spots are. Typically, you want to hunt down a spot where there's a big limb above it, because that will be where all the saps want to flow to those limbs and feed those new buds. So you're just gonna get in here to a spot that looks good. I've got a nice big limb right above here. So this looks like a thinner part of the bark, easier spot to drill. So just slight angle upwards. Make sure you clean it out well. About 1.5 inches is as far as I'm gonna go there. On a warm day when this sap is flowing, when you drill that hole will start to drip right away. But you just drill it, put your fitting in there, just give it a little tap. I don't put them in there too deep. And I'm going to go ahead and do a second one right over here. And just like that, you've tapped your first maple tree. And I'll give you guys a quick look at my setup here. I've got the 2 taps in, my hose going down to my Y connector, and I drill a hole just to the OD of my hose in my bucket lid. That way the flies and stuff can't find their way in. They'll smell that sugar and want in there. And that's that. You do want to keep an eye on it and make sure that you gather it in time, because if you get a stretch of a few warm days, it'll turn cloudy and it'll get a sour taste. A little bit of cloudy you can usually deal with, but once it gets a smell to it and gets milky, just dump it and go again. When you get a fair amount of sap collected, just take it and boil it down, and it'll start to turn amber colored, and just boil it down until it's the consistency that you want for your syrup, and you're ready for breakfast. I do filter mine out, and it's easier to filter when it's warm. You can filter it through cheesecloth, an old t-shirt, or coffee filters will work sometimes. It's a little thick for it. And I'll probably post a video of my finishing process once I get some sap gathered this year. But it's pretty straightforward. You want to tap during the freeze and thaw period of the year, and get it before the trees start to bud out, and enjoy.